You didn't arrive here because something convinced you. There was no conclusion that closed the loop. No sentence in your mind that finally made things settle. If anything, what brought you here feels almost unnoticed. Not an insight. Not a realization you could repeat back to yourself. There's no internal voice saying this is true now. No excitement trying to hold the experience in place. Nothing asking you to commit or agree. What you're noticing doesn't depend on belief. It doesn't strengthen when you lean into it, and it doesn't weaken when you question it. It's simply present, already functioning without asking for your participation. That absence of requirement is what makes it unfamiliar. Most states you've known needed something from you. Attention, effort, reinforcement. This one doesn't. And because it doesn't ask, the mind doesn't quite know where to put it yet. Earlier experiences relied on belief to stay intact. Belief gave them shape. It organized effort and justified movement. You believed in a direction, a process, a version of yourself you were becoming. Without belief, things used to feel unstable, as if something essential would dissolve if you stopped holding it. So when belief quietly drops away, the mind expects confusion to follow. Drift, loss, disorientation. But that isn't what's happening here. This state doesn't collapse without belief. It doesn't even react to disbelief. You can question it, ignore it, forget about it entirely, and nothing changes. That's the first subtle signal. This isn't a position you're maintaining. It isn't being held together by agreement. It's already operating beneath thought, and because it's beneath thought, thought isn't needed to keep it alive. This is often where confusion appears. The assumption that if nothing is being believed, then something must be missing. That you're supposed to replace belief with clarity, or certainty, or understanding. But this state doesn't ask for those either. There's no pressure to name what's happening. No internal demand to frame it correctly. Nothing waiting for interpretation. The system is already coherent. That coherence doesn't arrive with reassurance. It arrives with neutrality. And neutrality can feel unsettling if you're used to states that inspire, motivate, or direct. Here, nothing is directing you. Nothing is asking you to move. And yet life continues. Not paused. Not stalled. That quiet contradiction begins to matter, even if you're not trying to explain it yet. Because this state doesn't ask for belief, it also doesn't ask for action. There's no impulse saying, now do something. No sense that movement is required to sustain what's present. You still act when action fits. You still rest when rest fits. But neither feels strategic. Action doesn't preserve this state. Inaction doesn't threaten it. That's new. Earlier, not acting would have triggered doubt. Acting would have felt like confirmation. Now neither carries that weight. Productivity doesn't strengthen anything. Pausing doesn't weaken anything. This state isn't built on effort. It's built on the absence of internal opposition. Without opposition, there's nothing to push against and nothing to maintain. The mind keeps looking for familiar markers. Motivation, direction, intention. When it doesn't find them, it assumes something is wrong. But nothing has stopped. You may notice this in small moments. A task appears. There's no negotiation about alignment. You either do it or you don't. And the state remains unchanged. Earlier, behavior carried symbolic meaning. Acting meant you were still on track. Not acting meant something was slipping. Now behavior stays local. It doesn't echo into identity. This is why doubt behaves differently here. It can show up without consequence. There's no tightening in response. No urgency to resolve it. Doubt doesn't spread. It doesn't destabilize anything. Not because you're more confident, but because confidence isn't what's holding things together anymore. Temporary states react to interference. They need reinforcement to survive. This one doesn't respond at all. That non-reactivity isn't indifference. It's stability. Something has crossed a threshold without needing to announce itself. Over time, effort loses its emotional weight. You still apply yourself where it makes sense, but effort no longer carries the job of self-maintenance. Before, effort reassured you that things were moving, that you hadn't stalled. that you were still aligned. Now effort is just situational. Rest changes too. It no longer needs justification. It isn't preparation for future striving. Stopping doesn't create a gap that needs filling. Momentum isn't something you're protecting anymore. This begins to show up in decisions. You choose without rehearsing the choice, without scanning for the right internal signal. Mistakes don't spiral. They stay local. They correct without becoming narratives. Outcomes stop carrying symbolic weight. Success doesn't confirm you. Failure doesn't threaten you. What fades is not care, but self-evaluation. The internal observer slowly loses interest, not because it's silenced, but because it has nothing left to manage. As this settles, even the idea of being in a state loosens. There's less interest in naming what's happening or tracking where it leads. Not because it's unclear, but because it doesn't require monitoring. Belief isn't supporting this. Action isn't sustaining it. There's no bridge needed between uncertainty and movement. Life responds directly to what's in front of it. Quiet moments don't ask to be filled. Stillness doesn't signal lack. Nothing rushes in. Nothing needs to be pushed away. This doesn't point forward or backward. It doesn't offer a conclusion. It simply recognizes what is already functioning. The absence of belief isn't emptiness. The absence of action isn't passivity. They're signs that something more fundamental is carrying things now. You're not maintaining alignment. You're not preparing for another shift. What you're in doesn't need belief to be true or action to be real. It's already operating.